Dan sent me a really interesting story. We recently interviewed progressive messaging master George Lakoff. And after the big defeat that Democrats took last week in the midterm elections, George Lakoff wrote a really interesting article saying that the Democratic Party needs to properly and cohesively rebrand itself. And he makes the brilliant argument that it is not Republicans that are the party of freedom and liberty, but rather that it is Democrats, and that Democrats have just not been framing this properly. And if they did, it would bring huge advantages electorally. And when you go through this point by point, it is absolutely true that it is the Democratic Party that is the party of freedom. Most progressive issues are freedom issues. Voting. Without the ability to vote in a free election, you are not free. And as we see, the voter ID requirements that are being put in place require buying numerous different documents ranging from birth certificates and marriage certificates. It is making it not free to vote. This is a progressive issue. Freedom to vote. Health. If you get cancer, if you break a leg and you don't have health care, or you end up in the wrong hospital that's not covered, like I told you Megan Rothbauer did earlier in today's show, that is not freedom. You do not have the freedom to pursue life, liberty, and happiness if you have a situation where you break a leg and all of a sudden you don't have care. Healthcare, single-payer healthcare is a freedom issue. Education. If you don't have education, you lack the knowledge and skills, not just to earn a decent living, but also to even be aware of the possibilities that exist in your life. Without education, you are not free. Why would we push the direction of private schools? We should be furthering public education. We should be working on student lending. We should be working on reducing the cost of college. These are progressive issues around freedom. And then there's just the obvious ones, Louis. Women. If you're denied control over your own body, if legislators that have no medical experience whatsoever decide what happens with your body, you are not free. Marriage. If you're in love with someone and you're denied the ability to marry with a publicly declared lifetime commitment, you are not free. Income inequality. When the economic gains, as George Lakoff says, that most people have worked for go not to those who worked for them, but rather up a redistribution of wealth to the already wealthiest Americans, that is not actually freedom. I think Lakoff is spot on here. The party of freedom is the Democratic Party when we're talking about the actual progressive Democrats. Unfortunately, many of our Democrats are the same plutocratic centrists that we see in the Republican Party, but progressive values are the values of freedom.
I agree. Just don't bring up the topic of guns, right?
No, I disagree with you, Louis. I disagree with you because I know the right will say, well, what about freedom around guns? No. You are not really free if you are, number one, in a society where you feel that without a gun, you simply are not safe. That's not freedom at all. And number two, you are not free if the ability to get a gun is given to people who truly don't deserve it, and you constantly have to be worried, it's too easy to get guns. Do they have a gun? Do they have a gun? Who's going to shoot? Am I the good guy with the gun? Am I the bad guy with the gun? That's not freedom either.
I think we have a situation here where one party has been focusing on issues and the other party has been focusing on tricking people into thinking that they are on your side of these issues.
Right.
And
they're
into manipulating.
Moral, they're
Yes.
for freedom, they're for family, and it doesn't really translate, does it?
It does not. But nevertheless, it has been very effective. And that's why people think that one party is the party of freedom and the other is the party of, depressed people who are
just waiting for the government to give them free stuff. Yeah, the branding has to be fixed. Read the Lakoff article because it is really illuminating in terms of what's going on right now around the discussion of freedom and liberty. We'll be back after this.